these strikes are always a matter of luck. There are naval vessels operating in the area which have anti-missile technology, so it's always a matter of luck whether they get through or not. So it could just be a lucky strike. There do seem to be slightly fewer of these missile attacks overall in the last week or so, but hard to say definitively that's as a result of the American and British bombing.
Now, an oil tanker is on fire in the Gulf of Aden after Houthis claim to have hit it with a missile. It's the latest attack on international shipping by the Iran-backed rebels. Richard Spencer is the Times Middle East correspondent and joins us now. Morning, Richard.
Good morning.
So tell us the very latest on this Houthi attack. What do we know?
Well, it seems to have been a missile that got through the defense systems that have been put up in the Gulf of Aden and around the Red Sea. It hit this tanker called the Marlin Dewanda, an oil tanker run by operated by a international commodities firm called Trafigura, which has offices all over the world. It's originally, I think, French in ownership, but is very multinational now. The ship is flagged to the Marshall Islands, which is in an independent territory in the South Pacific. Like a lot of small countries, operates flags of convenience. So the Houthis said it was a British ship, not particularly British. Ships kind of don't really belong to any country nowadays. They're run by international consortiums. Has to be said also, the British and Americans struck another couple of targets in Yemen overnight. They are, as we know, retaliating with airstrikes in Yemen against Houthi missile sites. But this does not seem to be ending the attacks.
Well, that's what I was going to say, because we have seen a number of joint US and UK airstrikes. It's clearly not stopping the Houthis' ability to strike on these oil tankers.
No, of course, it's hard to say whether, I mean, these strikes are always a matter of luck. There are naval vessels operating in the area which have anti-missile technology. So it's always a matter of luck whether they get through or not. So it could just be a lucky strike. There do seem to be slightly fewer of these missile attacks overall in the last week or so, but hard to say definitively that's as a result of the American and British bombing.
Let's turn our attention to the ruling yesterday by the International Court of Justice, the UN's highest court. I mean, both sides in some ways could say that they have got a small win out of this. The genocide allegation is obviously being looked into further. It could be many years before we get a judgment on that. But there was a clear instruction to Israel. Tell us about it.
Yes, as you say, there's something for both sides in this ruling. The judges did not call for order an end to the war, so that's quite a big win for Israel. That was the main hope of the Palestinian side, was that the court would actually order Israel to end the war. The court did that in a separate case. Not involving genocide claims, but a case that was brought at the beginning of the Russian invasion of Ukraine in 2022. The judges did actually order Russia to stop, though of course Russia didn't take any notice. On the other hand, yes, the ruling went into quite a lot of detail, outlining some of the charges against Israel, if you like, the holding it responsible for some of the appalling humanitarian conditions in Gaza and the huge loss of civilian life, and said that these were worth examining further and were worthy of what they called interim relief. So they did order Israel to take more care, if you like. Now, the Palestinians say that because the case was brought under, charges of genocide, that does mean that the judges ruled that these charges of genocide were plausible. I mean, it's quite a complex ruling, because what it says is, we're concerned that there might be genocide, and clearly some of that is connected to these demands by some on the Israeli right that the Palestinians be expelled from Gaza, and there should be, people that the Israelis shouldn't care at all about the Palestinian population. Israel says that it is, of course, not committing genocide in Gaza, and that it is already doing all the things the court has told it to do, as in taking care of civilians.
Mhm. I'm just wondering, as this isn't enforceable, is it in any way by the court? This relies on Israel listening and deciding to follow that instruction. In reality, what is likely to change on the ground in Gaza as a result of this ruling?
Nothing, I think. As I say, the Israel's defense to this case is that it is doing all this already. It says it is not targeting civilians; it is targeting military targets, and that the civilian loss of life is collateral damage because Hamas is hiding in the midst of civilians and underneath civilians. It says it is allowing humanitarian aid into Gaza. It says the delays in humanitarian aid are because of the holdups in the UN, not by Israel. So it will say, well, we're doing all that already. So I do think this is a case where nothing much will change on the ground.
What about the politics of it? There's pressure already, we know, don't we? We've talked about it so much from other countries around the world on Israel. Is it going to increase in light of this ruling?
I think it is increasing. I think it will increase. This does give the critics of Israel a bit of a weapon. As I say, some of the descriptive parts of the ruling, saying what they think is going on, were implicitly very critical of Israel. So that does give another weapon to critics. Other countries have shifted their position, including Britain, somewhat, as which supported Israel very strongly at the beginning of the war, is now also calling for a ceasefire, and is very concerned about the humanitarian situation in Gaza and demanding that Israel do more. So there is that political effect. There are several political strands in going on simultaneously in this story. There's the internal politics of Israel, and then there's the politics of the relationship between Israel and America. And that dynamic is key. And how long President Biden holds the line in his support for Israel. He is clearly distressed at what Israel is doing now, and the way Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, is conducting the war. So that dynamic is the key one at the moment in terms of the international relationships.
Richard, always good to get your analysis. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Richard Spence there, who's the Times Middle East correspondent.